Hello, folks. Welcome back to World War II TV. Now, quite rightly, we've talked at length on the channel about war crimes and the complicity of the Wehrmacht in them, but we also value the testimonies of all who served in World War II. Christian Hardinghaus has interviewed some of the last men who fought in the Wehrmacht. His book, Cursed Generation, talks about this process and speaking to them. The links to his book are in the description below, as well as his website. I'll bring him in now. Good evening, Christian. How are you today?
Hi. Every day is fine for me.
Good.
Nearly every day. Christmas is in front of the door, so
Yeah, it's just round the corner now. So this is an interesting project. It's very, very common for people in America, Britain, to seek out World War II veterans. I can think of dozens of friends on Facebook who seek out American veterans, and they're still interviewing them. There are American veterans right now in Bastogne for the 80th anniversary. But how did you come to this project from the other side, from the defeated side, from the German side?
Yeah, I know this, and this is the reason why I like to talk to American historians or American interested people, or British or Russian, because they speak about the war. I think it's important to speak about every war. Yeah, wars we have today, and we can learn from wars, and this is the topic I'm dealing with. And we have two brutal wars, the worst wars in history in the 20th century. And of course, as Americans, British, Russians, French are the victors, they can talk about it open. So they have a chance to talk about every perspective. Yeah, and growing up in Germany is not easy. It was the big peace generation after the war, the 68s. Left wing, you can say. They didn't want to have something to do with the war anymore. So it was their fathers and mothers, and it was difficult to talk to them. So this was a big problem in the families, that the parents and mothers and fathers didn't talk about that time, and the children and grandchildren didn't ask. So it was silence between them, and many millions of people had war trauma. It's not only the soldiers. It's I talked to many women of the war and children of the war, and when it comes to the woman and to the end of the war, it's the many rapes that happened. So, and they never talked about it. So, and their children didn't want to know that, because it's not easy to hear something like that about your mother. So that means war trauma went to our generation, and even to me, to the grandchild generation, without knowing it. You know, some historians do research in whether it's DNA related. That war trauma can go from generation to generation without speaking about it. So that you have sensible DNA for this. And I was very interested in school to learn history. I make my Abitur, my degree in history. And of course, in Germany, we learn all about Holocaust and probably Hitler Youth and the start of the war and the end of the war. But what does not happen in Germany is in schools, you do not learn anything about the war. The German children do not know what their grandfathers had done in the war, because there is no all-day history. There is no talking about the soldiers. It's a kind of shame thing that people do not know how they talk about it, because when you talk about soldiers, it's always the question: was he a Nazi? Was he not a Nazi? And so teachers decide, or politicians decide, just to talk about it. Absolutely not.
Yeah,
So
moving on, and as we say, the reality is that despite the fact hundreds of thousands of Germans died in World War II, as indeed hundreds of thousands, millions of people died worldwide. Also, millions were still living all through the 50s and 60s and 70s, as you said, carrying on and rebuilding a new Germany. So dismissing everybody who lived through that era is wrong.
Yeah, it's a very I'm sorry for my German stuttering, by the way, but it's getting better. The longer we talk, the more I forget this terrible German language and can speak English. Yeah, this is that 16 million German lost their home in the East. Yeah, and this was a very, very trauma, to lose everything and settle to Western Germany as refugees. And these women, were homesick their whole life. Yeah, but this is also a thing German media never talked about. Yeah, it's like when you do not talk about it, it's not there. So what happened is, young children today, or pupils today, do not know anything at all about the Eastern German side. So Königsberg, or East Prussia, West Prussia, Silesia. You can go into the school, nobody knows something about it, and this is really pity, because it was German culture and it had a history before the war, but with the war all this ended. And I started in 2017 to interview survivors of the war, so soldiers and women and children, and listen to their stories. I'm often, this is what everybody knows. I just put the numbers so that we can see about what we are talking. So we had nearly 18 million Wehrmacht soldiers, so we can say it was the biggest army of the century, maybe of all time, I don't know, could be. And 5.3 million died. Okay, to the 17 million soldiers, this is only Wehrmacht. You can count SS soldiers, I think 1.5 million to that. And nearly every male survivor witnessed then was to be prisoner of war. And every soldier I spoke to was further or more, shorter or longer, a prisoner of war. And this is what everybody told me was much more brutal and much more disgusting, much more dangerous than the war itself. If you lay down on the ground in the cold for years, can't do anything, and see your comrades die next to you, this is what this is sometimes for me was difficult to understand, because they told you all their war stories, and they are sitting in the plane and can be shut down every second, or driving in a submarine, and can drunk every minute, but this is what all the soldiers told me was, if they were fighting, they had something to do, they had a job to do. They and this is what you are not afraid um, during this. But in captivity and prisoner of war, you start thinking. You are starving, and you don't know what the future brings. And this was for the most for all the hardest time. Yeah, and many died in prisoner of war ship. So this is just my. Oh yeah, this is what I made, because when I wrote this book, The Cursed Generation, I just have translated it. It was from the German version, Die
Yep.
verdammte Generation. It's the same, Cursed Generation, Die verdammte Generation. This was out in 2020. So and I started interviewing people from um, 2016. So, and when the book was out, half of the eyewitness already died.
Yeah.
So they told me their stories really at the end of their lives, and they were looking forward to the book to read it, and it was very sad. Yeah, the book was out, and half of the soldiers were dead. And now, 4 years later, when it comes to the English version, I really hoped that at last this is Werner, would be still alive, and he died 2 weeks before. And he really he was a big friend of America, and yeah, he died with 104 years.
Wow.
Yeah, and we talked about that he wanted to have his story translated into English. Many of my eyewitness wished that, yeah, because they wanted the former enemies to
To
see
understand.
what they, to
Yeah.
understand what they experienced, and maybe to tell them that the experience was quite similar. Yeah, soldiers are soldiers, you can say. And yeah, sadly, Werner didn't survive to this book, but the family knows that the book is out. And yeah, it's 2 weeks before, and we can stay at Werner. He was a very, very brave man, and all those soldiers I was talking to, who experienced the war, were people in the older age that who didn't complain so much about the little problems in life. So they had seen so many things. You can say that the war made them strong. Yeah, and when I was somebody who he had some experiences in war that he never talked to anybody, and this was a few times that they even didn't talk to their worst stories, about their worst stories, to their families. And but when I get in contact to them, I think they used the chance to tell a historian like me these untold stories. Yeah, I think they used the chance to yeah, that a historian will write it down, because some of them think, I have something to tell, and I want the world after us to know it. So, and I sat with him. He was at the Eastern Front as a machine gunner. You see at the machine gun here, and yeah. First, he was a baker, peaceful baker, and everybody had to go to the war, and he was on the Eastern Front, and he wanted to be a good, brave soldier, and he had learned that soldiers behave good. Yeah, he thought there is no war crime, and German soldiers didn't do war crimes, and it's fighting, and yeah, he arrived at the Eastern Front, and all illusions were gone.
Yeah.
So he told me his first day marching, and he saw German soldiers laying on the ground. It it was only skin. There were tanks driven over them, and he told me it's like a dead balloon. You say balloon, a balloon without air. So see human beings in this way shocked him, and then he got to the places of Leningrad. It was the Leningrad blockade, and he took part at a pocket of Oranienbaum. It was 40 kilometers from Leningrad, and they had a pocket with Russians in it who tried to get out, and they came at night to flew the pocket, and yeah, this was absolutely shocking for him, because every night was killing in the dark. Yeah, and then he witnessed many things. Yeah, he saw German soldiers doing war crimes. So they shot Russian prisoners in the head, execution. This is what he saw, and he loses all his confidence in the good of a soldier, what he had thought before. So, and he started to think, and other soldiers also did this. And then it comes to a day. This is something I just want to share about Werner. This is the secret he had in his life. He couldn't talk about. There was a day a comrade of him wanted to flew to the Russians. Desert.
Yep.
Desert. So you heard about all the Russian propaganda with the megaphones. Come to us. We treat you better, and we don't harm you. So, and some of his young comrades, yeah, run to the Russians, but was catched by German soldiers. And then the punishment was that all his friends, comrades, his group had to kill him. So it was an execution, and it was a good friend of him, a good comrade. They were talking about their emotions, and the Hauptmann says everybody has to take their rifle, and it was 10 people of a group, and then they had to shoot. Yeah, and what Werner does was thinking. I mean, he was 103 years old, 104 years old, but he thought every day whether it was his bullet who killed this guy. Everybody was shooting, and and of course he was afraid. He was afraid not to shoot, because the Hauptmann, said to him, "If you don't shoot, I am watching you. You are the next. So I will see that you all pull the trigger." And this is something. These are very touching moments, because you sit. You are 50, 60 years younger than him, and you have such an old, brave man in front of you, and he's crying in front of you. These are moments a historian comes to critical points. So Yeah.
And it seems, Christian, that you were never really trying to write a military history. You weren't concerned whether he was in first company or third company. What you wanted was just the emotional memories, because there's
Yeah, yeah,
plenty of people who've archived the movements of German divisions across the theaters. What we don't have as much of is just what the
yeah, yeah.
men were experiencing.
Yeah, yeah. I write about war. Different books. I write fiction and non-fiction, and one of my last books was about the propaganda of war propaganda, because I want people to understand what war is.
Yeah.
And for me, the best way to understand war is to speak to people who convinced it.
Yeah.
So, and many historians um, just go for documents. Yeah, I mean it's important too. It's
Yeah.
interesting. It's but and not everybody can do it. To speak to them without being afraid to ask, or getting sad too. Maybe those things play a role. So, but yeah, it's like maybe a doctor. You have to stay professional then.
Yeah.
And what's very important to do this oral history, we call it oral history, is not to interrupt them. Yeah, not force them to tell anything. They have to trust you, and you have to let them speak. Yeah, and this is what I tried. And these uh, talkings I have with all these soldiers were long discussions. Yeah, you talk over several days to them, and so they have the chance to get to know you. And at some point there's trust, and then it comes from their hearts
Yeah.
what they want to tell. Yeah, and of course all this what they remember are personal things. Yeah, death of comrades, homesick, um, killing other people, and not they are not so interested then in maps, or which street they have been, or something like that.
Mm.
Yeah, this was Werner. um, yeah, I've listed. We spoke about it. This was my intentions to talk to them, because it was the last chance to do it. I knew that, and used the chance. And of course, I want to bring into discussion um, new perspectives on the war, and firstly try to tell the German society. Yeah, there are stories of your grandfathers, and listen to them. What happened is, the book was really. I've written over 30 books, but this book was my absolutely bestseller. It was in the highest bestseller list in Germany. And so you could see that the people are interested. They read it. The media was not so interested in the book, the journalists. So there was no critics in the major newspapers, because they would have talked about other things. But I am getting so many mails and letters. It's unbelievable still today. So people send me pictures from their fathers and grandfathers. I found this in my cellar. Can you, Christian, please tell me, was my grandfather a Nazi? Yeah, and you have a picture from a Hitler Youth guy, or um, some labor worker, and then I can tell you, I can't see in the head of your grandfather, but
Yeah,
from the
yeah,
uniform, I can say your father was not in the SS. Yeah. So, but you see, in these things, the grandfathers who were in the war died, and then they took all the letters and the um, uh, photo albums and the things they wrote, and yeah, didn't know what to do with it. Yeah. And but they have been curious and try to understand, and these are very touching discussions too, so that they thank me, and that they say about themselves, um, that they are a little ashamed not to have spoken to their relatives, because no, um, when they understand certain things, they what their parents have done. Yeah. I can tell you a personal view of my grandparents. You say grandparents? Yeah.
yeah.
um, this My grandparents were also the initial idea for me to go into this, because when my grandmother died, I was 16 years old, and she never told us that she had been raped um, by Russians. She was fleeing from Königsberg, East Prussia, and when the Russians came in 1945, they killed her parents in front of her eyes, and she was also 16, and yeah, was raped. Never saw a naked man before, but was raped, and but she survived, and never talked to anybody in her whole life. Yeah. And not to my grandfather, to
Mm.
her man, what you call a man of a woman.
Partner,
husband
partner,
husband.
husband. Yeah, partner. Yeah, yeah.
Husband. Yeah. And before she died, she went to a not a nurse, a, a sister, a religious sister, a nun.
Yep, yep, none. Yep.
Yeah, a Catholic nun, and she told her the story and said, when I'm dead, please go to my daughter and my sons and tell it to them, and then they will know why I was such a hard mother. So and then special things for my mother, who was her daughter was clear. Yeah, why she was so hard to her. And this is something you can learn from it. Yeah. What I said, there could be trauma, but if you don't know it, you can't understand it. So, and then I talked to my grandfather, her husband, to his story. This is him. This is Otto, my grandfather, and he also turned 101 101 year, and he started to tell me everything, every little thing. 10 years we talked about everything, and so I started with his story, of course, and it's also in the book, without me saying that is my grandfather. But yeah, he was the initial motivation, because he was so honest to me. And after that, I said, okay, this is the chance. I interview many more of them. So, and yeah, if you like, I could tell you something about his work experience.
Please do. Yeah.
This is Otto, the survivor. Yeah, some say He looks a little similar to me. I don't know. He's probably 16, 17 years old, and he grew up in Bromberg. This was West Prussia. So West Prussia was German, but then became Polish after First World War, and there lived a German minority. So they were called Volksdeutsche. So, and he lived there in Poland and lived his life. His father was a basket maker. Yeah, they built basket, and they had the Vistula, and my grandfather loved fishing. And yeah, this is why I wanted to tell about this little episode, because this was a thing he told us. There, his last years, every year on Christmas, when he started to talk about the war, it was every year on Christmas. He told us that God exists. Yeah, God exists. He wasn't such a religious man. He didn't go to church, but he was convinced that God exists. There was an situation when he was 17 years old and living in Bromberg. He was ill and walked to the doctor in Bromberg. He lived in a village near Bromberg, and he had ultimative pain in the stomach, and the doctor couldn't help him. And then he went home, buy food, and thought he will die and sit in a forest clearing. And then he prayed and said, oh my God, please let me live until I'm 50 at least. Yeah. And then he said he heard a voice from the heaven, an angel, he told. And the angel told him, Otto, you are not going to be 50, you will going to be 100 years old. And this is what he believed all his life, and it fulfilled. Yeah, the angel was right. Yeah. And then the war proved it. So the war broke out in Poland, and on the 1st September of 1939, all people living in Bromberg, the German minority, was catched by the Poles. So they brought the German males to concentration camps, because they were afraid that the Wehrmacht comes and they enlist all these young men in the Wehrmacht. So they sent them on death marches. So my grandfather was in this death march, and on 3rd of September, I don't know if anybody had heard about this, or have you heard about the Bromberg Bloody Sunday?
Yep, a little bit. Yep.
Yeah, this was a kind of revenge action, so that Polish killed German people on the street, and this was mostly women and older people, and the young people like my grandfather was sent to the death marches. But the Wehrmacht was very quick to come to Poland, as we all know. So they were 30 kilometers in front of Warsaw, and then my grandfather understood Polish, so he understood that they were going to shoot them all. So it was not time anymore, and they put all the men on a cornfield, and my grandfather could jump in it before the bullet hits him. And he hid there in the cornfield for 3 days, and came out when he saw the Stukas in the sky with a Hakenkreuz.
And this is fascinating, Christian, because we know as historians that in 1939 there were way more killings by the SS against Poles than there
Yeah,
were
yeah,
killings of
of course,
Germans by Poles. But
of
your
course, yeah,
grandfather's experience was this, that he was part of this. It allows us to understand how a participant in something or witness to something who's only seeing a part of the picture can
yeah,
build
yeah,
up a
yeah,
very, very different
yeah, yeah,
picture of what's going on than
yeah,
now
yeah.
we have the full details now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. History is multi-perspective.
Yeah.
You can only understand history if you have all. So, and the Wehrmacht came, and my grandfather get out of the field, and then he told, "Oh, I'm German, not shoot." And then they asked him if he understand Polish, and then he said yes, a little bit. And then he was an interviewer. You say interviewer, Dolmetscher. Is
Interrogated,
this
yep. Interrogator, yep.
interrogator? So, and then he was, yeah, more or less forced to go with these German soldiers who were themselves looking for Polish resistance fighters or something like that. And as you say, they searched them not to talk to them, but to shoot them. Yeah. So my grandfather had to go to the farms, to the Polish farms where probably some Polish soldiers hid, and had to translate. Yeah. And then he saw that they called Polish people, and I think he could think about that, these people will be shot. Yeah. But what he wanted was back home. Yeah, he missed his mother, and he didn't know what happened to his family. He had lots of younger sisters and brothers, and he asked his commander whether he could go. Yeah, he was not a regular soldier to this day, and they said to him, "You everything is bombed. You can't go there." But after 3 weeks, he was allowed, and then he had the chance to see his mother again for the last time, all his family for the last time, and then he was enlisted to the Wehrmacht, and first had to go to Norway. Yeah, to Norway was defeated in 2 days, I think. Yeah, but many German soldiers had to save the coasts. So this was his first job, to save the coast in Norway, because British tried to land there. Yeah, this was he was there 2 years, I think, and he loved Norway. He told me Norwegians are the most honest persons in the world. These are things that stuck in your head if your grandfather tell you that, because he forget his skiers at one village, and if a week later they were still there. So for him was Norwegians didn't steal; they are honest people. So yeah, there were no fighting anymore. He had there was a landing. British soldiers tried to land there, and he was on Wache. He was guarding the coast, and was on the machine gun, and they couldn't land, and he got the war merit with 2 swords.
Yeah.
For it. 20 or 30 years later, a cleaning woman in his house steal it from him. So this was something. Yeah, she was obviously not Norwegian.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the D-Day came. This is your big topic. And German soldiers from Norway had to transfer to France. to stop the British and Canadian troops. And so my grandfather went to Cayenne, and he was trained as a tank commander. He was in a tank company, which was part of the 21st Panzerdivision, Rommel.
Yeah.
And he was driving French, what do you call it in English?
Self-propelled guns, Marders, the vehicles, armored vehicles, tanks.
But French.
The Marders. Marder, probably.
Yeah, or Renault.
Or Renaults, yeah.
And was a little difficult to do that, but they had their fighting in Cayenne, and I think this was a problem for the British to go to Cayenne.
Yeah,
I think
took
it
a month,
two or 3 weeks or a month. So this was his first tank battle, but then the US troops came, and the Canadians and the British, and then they had to flee to Falaise.
Yeah.
And then he was in the pocket of Falaise. So there were, I think, 100,000 German soldiers, and of course they tried to bomb them out there. And he was a group leader, of 10. He was Unteroffizier, Unteroffizier, non-commissioned officer. And there's another experience of him, that every time when the bombs came, they run into the bunkers, and on one day his angel told him not to run into the bunker, who he runs every day in, and he heard of this voice and run away to I think a street lantern or something, and hide himself there. And on this day the bunker gets fully destroyed. So every man was dead, all his group, and he had to go in there to collect their badges. What do you call this?
That's the which one's that one? That's the dog tags. Yeah, dog tags.
Dog tags. Yeah, this is him. His. Yeah. So he collected them, and this was hard for him. And then few weeks after that, prison ship began. This was in French prison ship. Most people told me that in French captivity was the most hardest. I've talking to many soldiers who were in Russian prisoners of war, and of course there were not much food, but the Russians didn't really torture them. But French and Germans had been the French was not amused that the country was fallen in a few weeks, and there had been rivals in all wars before, so they didn't treat them right, and they died really thousands of them. And this is what my grandfather was talking about. They get a piece of bread and a cigarette a day. And he shared his bread. He shared his cigarette There were always soldiers who prefer smoking and gave their bread for another cigarette.
Mm.
So all these soldiers died. Yeah, and he took two breads, and so he survived this. And he was there 4 years until he was released. But this was his, as I told, um, hardest time to. They had nothing in their tents, and he told me that every morning he felt the pulse of his comrade left and right, if he is still alive or not. And every morning they bring out dead people out of the tents. Yeah, but so he survived the war, and then in his life he survived all illness, cancer, and everything else. And then he was 100 years old, and he could say, "Thank you, angel. You told me the truth." And then I said to my grandfather, "Please ask your angel if you can have 1 year more." And he
Mm.
did that. He asked the angel, and yeah, he could say goodbye to everybody, and then he died. And this was the story of my grandfather. And um, this is a small part of the summary. Yeah, but this was touching me, so that I went on.
But but that is what's so interesting, Christian, is that his perspective was his, but it's not necessarily universal. That's the fascinating thing about people who survived, is that, you know, you interviewed a handful of veterans, millions served. So the interesting thing is how valuable their testimonies are, because he experiences some particularly unique things in 1939. The fact that he
Yeah.
had a bit of a grudge against the French, his experience of the Russians wasn't so bad. The fact he didn't lose his faith, the fact he remained religious all his life. These are really interesting. I don't know they're necessarily
This is
representative, but they're interesting.
This is an individual story. You know, it's kind of personality. There are other soldiers who completely lost belief in God.
Yeah.
So that they said it can't be a God that does this to us. Yeah, and it may be that for some others, French prison ship was not so worse, or something like that. This is the thing you have to do as a historian when you do oral history. You have always to compare this to as much as others who were on the same places.
Yeah.
So that you can say something like it's probable, or it's maybe individual.
Yeah,
So
we as historians have a lot of information in front of us, so we can look at the average experience. We can draw conclusions based on data, based on the proliferation of information. But a person who goes through a war only ever sees that war through their very narrow perspective, and it means we can't take what they say as being any more than what they say. We can't use this to explain what all Germans said. We can only use it to explain what these Germans said. And it's exactly the same when you're speaking to an American or a British or a Canadian veteran. Their perspectives are their perspectives, but they don't necessarily cover anybody else's.
Yeah, of course. Every war experience is different, but it's why I think oral history is so important is it gives you a visual part of things you wouldn't see otherwise.
Yeah.
So they can tell you how the food was in a prison, or how it smelled, and how it felt to kill another person. And I think if you collect many stories, you find similarities, and from these similarities you could say, okay, this comes close to what happened, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
So
Yeah.
yeah, this is with all history we have. Consider maybe Auschwitz. Yeah, I was first working with my doctorate was about Holocaust studies, and I read all the experience of Holocaust Auschwitz survivors, and we can only know what happened there because of their stories.
Yeah.
There is nothing written how it looked and what they have done. So we have to listen to them all, or most as possible, to make us a picture.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this could come together. The documents we have and the eyewitness account we have. And of course, you always have to consider, if you talk to eyewitnesses, that there are, of course, problems with
Yeah.
with the remembering. So they are old people. They could maybe confuse things. Yeah. So the best way is to have all their military documents. This is what I did first. So I collected all their Wehrpass and all their regiments. Yeah, you know that this is the Bundesarchiv in
Yeah.
Germany. They collected about every soldier. You see every branch, every division, every place, every wound, every medal, and so you can see if the things the eyewitness tells you is um, is is yeah,
Valuable.
valuable, fits the documents.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if somebody tells me about Northern Africa and I see he was fighting in Ukraine, there's something that can't you can bring it together then.
Mm.
So and of course to speak to all these soldiers was work before. I have to talk to the families. I have to make sure that that the eyewitnesses are not ill. Yeah. Not have a disease of. There's a disease when you forget everything.
Alzheimer's or dementia. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
Alzheimer. Yeah, okay. So I had it. I had it one time when I interviewed an old woman. She told me about her front experience as a nurse, and it was a very exciting story. And after 1 hour, she didn't know anymore who I am. So she was totally clear, and after 1 hour, she asked who I am, and so you can't use this story. This is over then. Yeah, and there her daughter hadn't told me about that. And yeah, there are many things that must come together so that you have a good, reliable interview.
Mm.
Then
Anyway,
who
we've got another veteran on the screen now, so let's talk about him.
Yeah, this is Wiegand. Wiegand is somebody who maybe some of your viewers know him. He gave interviews in media. Do you know him, Wiegand Wüster?
I don't think so. No.
Yeah, he's not as popular, but he was a German Stalingrad veteran, and he liked to speak about it. So it was easy for me to find him, and yeah, this is Stalingrad is another trauma in the German history of World War II. So maybe I can tell something about Wiegand's story without going to his childhood and
Yep.
yeah. So
Yeah,
we
sure.
all know Stalingrad started in August 1942, and he was an artilleryman. He loved horses, and he was a very proud soldier. He was on his free will. He liked to be a soldier. He had been fighting from the beginning. He was in the Polish War. He was at the Maginot line
Line. Yep.
fighting. And when I visit Wiegand, this was a kind of strange experience for me, because he hasn't talked about his Stalingrad or war experience with his granddaughter, and it was in summer, and his granddaughter was on visit. School was out, holidays began. He came to her her lovely opa, her lovely grandfather, and wanted to have some money for holidays like every year. And on this day, a journalist was there, me, and discussing with Wiegand, and her name was Lara, and she sat down, eating a cookie, drinking a coffee, and just listened to what we talk about. And then he told me on his first day uh, at his Poland war, so in September 39, when he was riding on his horse, and there had been Polish soldiers in a field shooting at him, and his horse went crazy, and he took his pistol and shoot this guy. And then her daughter sat there, totally bleached face, white face, yeah, and said, uh, grandfather. No, what do you say in America to grandfather? Granny?
Grandfather. Yeah. Granddad. Yeah.
Yeah, granddad. Did you really kill this guy? Did you kill him? And he said he was a former soldier. He said in a absolutely emotion without emotion. Of course, I kill him. So I had to. If I hadn't killed him, he had kill me. So, and there you see the difficultness between those generations. That she was totally shocked that her lovely grandfather killed a person. So, and he had to explain to her that, yeah, if I hadn't killed him, he had killed me, and then you wouldn't sit here and eat cookies. Yeah. So this was strange. Yeah, and then he told me everything about Stalingrad. So he was in this regiment. I can tell you which regiment. 21st Infantry Division, 11th Battery, as an Oberleutnant. So he went into Stalingrad with his howitzers, and they tried to shut down Stalingrad from 2, 3, 400 meters away, yeah, with the howitzers. And what he told me is the city it was not undestroyable, so all houses went down, but from the other side new Russian soldiers came in, more and more and more and more and more. So this is what we know. What the Russians did is put as many soldiers in this city as possible, so that the fighting lasts. Yeah, and I think the German army occupied 90% first, and then it came to a point that it stopped some at some day, and Hitler wasn't able to say we have problems in Stalingrad. Yeah, he wanted Stalingrad. Stalingrad was the name of Stalin, his biggest enemy. So he couldn't say we have problems, especially in Stalingrad. So what they did to the home front was to make a picture that everything is okay. It's just snowing, yeah, but we are all fine here. And they begin with sending German soldiers home. And so was Wiegand on the 16th of November 1942. He was sent home to holidays, and he wanted to marry his pen friend Ruth. So he went back from Stalingrad to Germany, and 3 days after he was out of Stalingrad, the pocket came on 19th February. So he was lucky to get out and was in Germany and married Ruth. But he was he was a soldier from heart. He was an Oberleutnant, and so a little higher rank. Yeah, he was a little older, and he felt the responsibility to go back. So, and then he sat in the train and said, "Goodbye, Ruth. I have to go back to Stalingrad." And yeah, he met a colonel, a higher general in the train from Hanover to Berlin, and he asked where he's going, and he said Stalingrad, and the colonel was laughing. So you can't go to Stalingrad. It's over. Don't believe the propaganda," said the German. Yeah, I can write you a letter that I have said you don't need to go there. Yeah, and you can't in any way. But Wiegand said, "Yeah, I have to. My comrades are there." So he makes his way to Stalingrad as he told his soldiers, and was traveling with a train to the Ukraine, and then tried to fly in the pocket. So he tried with a U to this different airfields from Stalino to Rostov, and from Rostov they tried to get as near as possible to Stalingrad. There are different airfields, but they couldn't land. The first try they were shot, and but not shot down, but they could escape, and they went to Rostov again. And Wiegand said, "Yeah, I have to take another plane." So, and he tried it 3 times to get in this pocket, and at least it was with another U. I think he tried with a Henkel before, and then he landed on the last airfield. I think it was called Pitomsk. You know that?
I think it rings a bell. Yeah, possibly.
Yeah, you see this airfield. If you have seen the movie Stalingrad, the German movie. Yeah, this is there are scenes on this airfield where you see all the. This is the airfield. You see, this is a picture he was drawing. He was a painter, so hobby. Yeah, he painted his war experience. So, and he landed there, and the the plane was hit again, and the soldiers, the pilot, get out the barrels they had to transport in the city. I think it was kerosene or Treibstoff, benzene,
Yeah,
gas.
paraffin, possibly. Yeah.
Yeah. So and then he jumped out, and the plane flew away. And then he noticed that he have landed in a white hell. So then he saw all these pictures you see in this movie. Yeah.
Mm,
So that they are totally not soldiers anymore, but looking like ghosts.
mm,
German soldiers who are starving and um, crawled to the airfield in the hope that a plane comes to bring them out. So there were soldiers who hurt themselves, shoot them in the leg or something like that, so that they can say we have to go out. And Wiegand, yeah, like you are on a ghost ride or something like that. But he managed to find his way to Stalingrad, back to his battery. They are still there. And then he was in a bathhouse. A bathhouse is kind of open swimming place, a former swimming place.
hmm
And yeah, they stayed there with 200 soldiers, I think. And it was then January. The whole supply was over. There was not coming any food anymore. So what they did was slaughter all their horses. So, and this was hard for Wiegand because he loved horses. And yeah, but they killed all their horses and then make sausage. And after that, it was horse soup. And when no horse were there anymore, they have to look for smaller animals. They had nothing to eat anymore. And Wiegand couldn't stand that anymore, and um, went to his commanders. And he said they were totally here's a picture of them. You see him here in white, and they're his commanders. They were in a liquor not store, where you make liquor. A
brewery,
liquor.
or yeah, a brewery, I guess, for beer, or a distillery.
Distillery. Yeah. They sat there and drank. They are all totally drunk, and had pistols in their hand, and said, "The thing is over. Please drink with us, and then we all shoot ourselves." So, and but Wiegand didn't want to shoot herself. He had married Ruth and
Mm,
had promised her to come back. So, but he knew from this moment on that he cannot rely on any military order anymore.
right.
So a few days later, General Paulus um, gave up, or
Surrendered.
surrendered
Yep.
to the Russians. And Göring said during radio, Stalingrad is, we gave up Stalingrad. So they had 90,000 German soldiers in Stalingrad, and nobody cared for them anymore.
Mm,
So what to do? He went back to his bathhouse, and what do soldiers in a war? They tried to save this bathhouse. There were coming more and more Russians to capture this bathhouse. And Wiegand told me these soldiers he had were on the small windows where they can shoot out to the Russians. And but what it was kind of slaughter.
mm,
So and the Russians came and said, "Put your white flags out, surrender to us." but Wiegand didn't want it because he knew that the Russians maybe could kill him, and then he tried to escape with a few comrades, but of course they had been catched. This is the moment he drew when they catched him. Yeah, first they wanted, of course, all Russians first wanted the clocks of the soldiers, the watches.
Yeah, watches.
It's always this. This is a good example for when you can say there is a valuable fact, because really everybody on every front, on every city, people told you when when Russian soldiers came, they heard Uri Uri. This is Uri Uri, means give me your watch. So this is the first thing. So they they given the watch, and then they wanted to shoot him because he was a higher ranked officer. They saw it. They saw it, and then a T-34, T-34 tank came with a Russian commander, and he said did not shoot the Germans, and he wanted to have his hand shoes. No, not hand shoes. Gloves. Yeah. Wiegand had fine leather gloves,
right?
And he exchanged his old gloves with Wiegand, and this was the moment Wiegand didn't die there, but then he went to captivity for 6 years to 1949.
And when you spoke to him, what was his reason for wanting to get back to Stalingrad? Was it a love of Germany? Was it to not let his friends down? Was it because he signed an oath to Hitler? Was it all of the above? Do you think he was honest with you?
Yeah. I think I'm convinced he was honest to me. He felt duty for his company, for his men. But of course, he probably didn't think about that it would be this hell. Yeah, because when he left, Stalingrad wasn't over. Yeah, they probably think General Hoth is coming with the tanks, and then we have Stalingrad. So before Stalingrad, most of the German soldiers thought they could win the war.
Yeah,
it was only after Stalingrad. So for Wiegand was no reason to. He was, like I said, he was a full blood soldier in his heart, and he wanted to take part in the war as a soldier. So, and not stay at home and play chess or something. So it was his job. Yeah, maybe you think about you love your job as a journalist, and if somebody say don't go to your studio because it's heavy raining, then you say, oh, I have to make a show, so I go. So this is what he think. But of course, nobody could expect this. What happened there? It was you can say an humanitarian apocalypse. Those people were killing each other with knives and hands. There were Russian snipers in cellars who shoot down German soldiers, and German soldiers came with flamethrowers and get them out. And I don't know. There was times where each day 1,000 German soldiers were killed. and maybe 10 time Russian soldiers. So this was really brutal fighting, and as we know, it's I think 150,000 German soldiers who left their life in Stalingrad, and 500,000 Russians. And then the last survivors, it was about 90,000, went into captivity, and 6,000 came back. So 6,000 from 280,000 soldiers survived.
And do you think that the veterans that you spoke to that fought on the Eastern Front had a different perspective than those who fought in the West? Because obviously in the Eastern Front, with what happened after the war, is that the Soviets now become the new enemy, and then Germany eventually becomes part of NATO. So it was easier as a German civilian in the 1960s and 70s to talk about not liking the Russians. But it was much harder to talk about not liking the Americans or not liking the British.
Absolutely. This is a thing you even notice today. So when the war in the Ukraine started, no matter if Putin started the war, it's no question, but old prejudices broke out again against all Russians. So this is of course when the Americans, I mean, there's only one example of a war crime Americans did on German ground, and this is the only story I heard where German soldiers were treated bad. So this is the Rhein-Meadow camps. You know that?
Yeah.
Rheinwiesenlager. I have somebody. I've talked to several people who were in this camps, but this was an exception, absolutely exception. All prisoners who came to America after the D-Day, with Queen Mary, they brought to the United States. It was paradise for them, for everybody. I told to couldn't believe that they are treated like tourists in those camps. They had cinema, they drank their Coca-Cola, they eat hot dogs, they had cinemas, and could do sports or something like that. And in Russia, like in French captivity, you lay down and we're hoping not to die. But of course, the Eastern Front wars and the Western Front wars were totally different. And I have many soldiers who fought on both fronts, who were first in Russia and then were in the Battle of the Bulge or the Hürtgen Forest. But Russia was, you can't get down anymore from both sides. It was an absolutely loss of humanity. They went crazy there if they killed each other. So these are really brutal stories. You can say massacre. And I heard stories of German soldiers, machine gunners who were in front of a village and had to fight, and they shot down tens and hundreds and thousands and 10,000s of Russians running from a mountain to the village. And they were 5 machine gunners and all they do is shoot, and they fell like flies.
Mm.
And they even saw that from the other side, from the wood behind the mountain, the Russian commissars were shooting to their own people. If they don't run to the Germans, they had been killed from behind. So yeah, this is what I learned very, very fast, that this was another kind of war. So
Mm.
yeah, you can't say that there hadn't been war crimes on other fronts. Of course they were, but this German-Soviet war, I heard the most shocking stories. And yeah, it's not even the soldier stories, but as I told you before, it's then the revenge that took place, that they raped all these women.
I mean, when you are reminded about the Eastern Front, you just realize it, just as you said there, that it brutalized everybody who was there. Soviet, German,
Yeah,
all
yeah.
Axis nations, all Soviet nations, civilians alike. It just became a just entirely brutal
Yeah.
combat. We've been talking for some time already. We have a request from Andreas, one of our German viewers. Can you speak about Helmuth Mimer, one of the guys you wrote about?
Oh yeah. Um, can I answer him and
Yes,
he
please.
is
Yeah.
here? So yeah, Helmut Mimer, that probably means he had written a book I wrote about Helmut Mimer,
Right.
I guess.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, this is I have it here. This is another book. It's not in English. It's
Right.
just in German. But I would like to translate this also in English. Helmut Mimer is yeah, of course, one of the most touching stories I ever heard. Helmut Mimer was a doctor, and he had a half Jewish wife, Mischling. The Nazis called them Mischling. So and he had the idea. His brother was in the NSDAP, and he heard of a special a special rule, a special exclusion or something. I don't know how to. No, there was a possibility, a theoretical possibility that he heard from it, that he could save his Jewish wife,
Right.
when he is going to be a war hero. And he was at least 40 years old when the war break out, and he didn't have to go to war. He was a doctor, and he hadn't he also wouldn't have been allowed to fight because of his Jewish wife. But there was a mistake they made, and he managed to get to the East Front, and he worked there for a tank company. I think the 16th Tank Division, and they rolled through the Ukraine. And he was a double doctor. He was biologist, and he was a medicine doctor, and he was he was also somebody who liked this comradeship. So he didn't want to work in a lazaret, but want to be at the troops. So he was in a tank reconciliation. Yeah, he was with the troops. So, and his aim was to be a hero, to collect iron crosses, and then write a letter to Hitler personally to say, I did everything I can. Please let me my wife and my children. And this is what he managed. It's an unbelievable story. It's an unbelievable story first because he was such an intelligent man. When I learned about the story of Helmuth Machemer, I had written this book about the soldiers, and I had a call from the son of Helmuth Machemer, an 85 years old man. And he said to me, I have something for you. In my refrigerator, I have 8 hours unseen material, video material from the Eastern Front. Nobody had seen them. No historian, nobody. My father had smuggled it out from the East Front. And I have thousands of pictures, and it portrays the Eastern Front in a way you haven't seen before. So, and he didn't lie. I watched all this, and Helmuth Machemer was a very brave man. Yeah, he was on his free will in this war, and he said if he does this, he wants to portray the war like the war is. So he wrote everything down, and he could have been killed for it. So his mission to save his wife had been in danger, but he wrote things down, filmed things, photographed things, and smuggled it out from the Eastern Front by comrades who went on holiday. Yeah, and he even make it's not stupid things, it's humanitarian things, but he went as a doctor and found a Russian hospital in the woods where people were dying. And what he did was for 3 days operating the enemy. He operates the enemy. If the SS or whomever had noticed it, it is clear death. So long story. It's a really long story. It's 600 pages book, but a long story. He really, with help of other, soldiers and politicians, Hitler wrote this letter. Yeah, Erna Machemer, the wife, is of German blood now. And this is the only what do you call
example?
The only example that exists.
Wow.
Yeah, we have such rules when Nazis needed Jews for special things. They get this
document, exception,
this right. You have this Erhard Milch from the Air Force. You ever heard of him? An inspector of the Air Force who was half Jewish, but he was such a good soldier, so that Göring said, who is Jew? I decide.
Yeah, that's the whole irony and the sickness of it all, is that they bent their own rules if they felt it was their advantage. But I feel as we're getting on in time, can you do one more story of one of the veterans you spoke about, and then we'll bring things to an end? It's been really fascinating, but pick one more.
Yeah, jetzt Stalingrad Madonna habe ich hier noch. This is maybe a short story. Want a pilot story or the Peanuts Fritz story?
Peanuts story. Yeah, let's do that one.
Have you heard of him?
No, but it looked good on your slide, so let's do that one.
Okay. Yeah, Peanuts Fritz is another guy I met, and when I met him to the interview, he was fascinating from a plastic grenade, an American plastic grenade. A fan of him from America sent him. It was a Bluetooth speaker.
Right.
So, and he had a tablet, and his favorite songs on this tablet, like Lily Marlene and stuff like that. And he pressed on his tablet, and then this grenade played this music, and he was totally like it was a wonder. Yeah. And Peanuts Fritz is known in the USA. I think not not in the society, but at persons who love military history, maybe. And yeah, so when I was at him, I saw his whole flat was full of peanuts with different tastes. And yeah, Fritz was on both fronts too. So he had been on the Eastern Front at the Battle of Resch. Resch. You know Resch?
Mm-hmm. Yep. We've talked about that on the channel with Prit Butar, this story, and yeah, big important battle, the Rzhev salient. Yeah.
Yeah. The yeah. Okay, and the Battle of Kursk.
Yep.
The tank battle, the big tank battle, and this was brutal experience he had. This is really in short. So there were cruel things that they had dig themselves in the ground, and the Russian tanks came and make a turnaround on the holes to kill the German soldiers in it. So Fritz was wounded 3 times or 4 times and managed to get out. And at the very last station, he was in Hürtgenwald.
Right.
Yeah. And there, you know, the Hürtgen.
Yeah, we've talked about it a lot. Yeah. Terrible campaign, terrible for everybody.
Terrible. I think it was 20,000 death on both sides, and there it was that his regiment shot down American tanks. Yeah, they're stuck in the woods somewhere, couldn't move, and there were 10 Sherman tanks, and they destroyed 9 of them, and one managed to escape. So, and then they went to the wounded, and it was later in the evening, so they slept in the ruins of the Sherman tanks and found American stuff in it. American cigarettes, fine cigarettes, Camel, Lucky Strike, and special things to eat. And it was kind of paradise for them. And Fritz found peanuts. There was somebody who had left his peanuts in the tank, and he ate these peanuts, and yeah, it tasted him so well. And it was only, I think, then 50 years later, in the beginning of the 90s, an American journalist wrote about the Hürtgen battle and interviewed eyewitnesses, and he get to know Fritz. And Fritz told him this story with the peanuts in the Sherman tank. And then I think it was first in a German book, and then it was translated, and then some of the American veterans read this story, and they find it so touching that they started to send him peanuts. So, and before that, a letter arrived at Fritz from Ray. Ray was a soldier who was on the Hürtgen forest, and Ray told him, "You ate my peanuts." This is crazy, oh? So he said he managed to escape with the last tank, but he forgot his peanuts in his tank, and yeah, you ate my peanuts, and this is an example of a story that wars can write too. So Ray came to Germany. Fritz flew to America, and they did it often. They had become very good friends, and yeah, this is the short summary of the story of Peanuts.
And that at the heart of it is the unique perception of war that veterans have, is that for this American Ray to get in contact with Fritz and have this discussion about Peanuts, they weren't talking about ideologies and different types of tank and whether the campaign should have been fought differently or which general was the best. All they were talking about was this shared experience, and all we can do as students of history is accept the fact that that is the way they looked at it, even if it's not necessarily how we look at it. That was their point of view.
Here's I don't tell the whole story, but this is a similar one. This was Hans Werner. He was a Stuka. He flew U-88. 88 torpedo bomber, and first in the Mediterranean and then in the North Sea on the convoys of the British, and he attacked a convoy, and it wasn't easy, but the whole crew of this ship of the convoy, it's the HMS Narinya, it's a warship that protected the convoy, and they tried to shut him down. He flew over the HMS Narinya. He didn't want to. Everything was full of fog, and he didn't see the ship, and suddenly he was there, and he makes pirouettes and loopings and stuff like that, and all the British soldiers stand there and said, "Oh my God, this must be a German flying ace. Never seen this before." He managed everything there, and they found each other too after the war. So, and he was on this veterans meeting from this HMS Narnia, and every year he was there. And these are war stories too. They told the British soldiers, I wasn't a flying ace. I was so afraid. Yeah, it was pure luck that you didn't hit my plane. So, yeah, but they became friends, long friends. And now they are dead, all of them. But their stories live. And this is what I'm trying to do, and what many historians trying to do, to keep alive those stories. Yeah. This is only my part of the history to put down personal stories. Everything other is equal important.
Yeah.
As I said,
essentially, you're just putting what these people told you out there to the public, and it's up to the public to decide whether they want to think this is a universal truth, or whether it's lies, or whether it doesn't matter. We all know that the veterans' testimonies, from whichever side they fight for, whether they fight for the British, American, Germans, there's problems with memory. They have unique perspectives of the war. Some people come back broken by wars. Some people love talking about the war. The point is, you're just presenting the stories. So we are. David O'Keefe, a historian, asked you right at the beginning of the show, what the cursed generation is your title. And Philip Blood, who's a British historian who lives in Aachen in Germany, said it's a common expression in German to describe that generation. What's your interpretation of what that means, and what?
A cursed generation. They also used cursed generation for different generation, for the generation of First World War, I think too. Cursed generation. it's in German, it's die verdammte Generation. This is I think this is maybe a summary from what the people told. They're forced to fight. Yeah, they had no decision. This is you would cursed is not forced, but verdammt is more forced. So it is cursed to forced to fight, and after that, because I'm telling in this book about their life after, so many of them had the feeling that they are cursed to be silent. Yeah, you can interpret it this way. So you are forced to fight, forced to be silent, and this is what I wanted to change. And I haven't interviewed war criminals. Yeah, I haven't interviewed because I think a war criminal maybe hadn't contact me. I mean, I searched
they're
for.
unlikely to come forward. If someone is out there who has done something particularly horrific, they're unlikely to put themselves in a situation.
He wouldn't speak to me. So I think I have spoken to a good mixture of ordinary soldiers, and if I could reach with this book at least to get the fact that not every German soldier was a Nazi, but a soldier. Yeah. This doesn't mean that we live in I would say stupid times that people think in black and white. Either you are that or you are that. But the world is gray. There's in between those things a lot. So when I write a book about the ordinary soldier, that doesn't mean that the Nazis didn't exist anymore. So you can read two books. Yeah, a book about Nazi criminals and a book about Wehrmacht soldiers. And I think this is what I wish, or what I like as a historian and as a human being, is to get an oversight of all we have. We can't say we do not want to talk about this part of the war. Then I can't understand the whole war, I would say. So
I mean, it's as I said in the introduction, and I've said in the description there, the myth that the Wehrmacht were innocent as an organization of war crimes, it's a myth. Of course, the Wehrmacht committed crimes, but individuals' experiences are still valid, and of course, that's what you're trying to present. There's these individuals still had experiences, and their experiences are worth hearing. And we as people who are interested in World War II, we can take from it what we want. We can denounce it. We can just say it's interesting, but the point is, it's an uncomfortable subject, and but it's like people who go out, and interview, I don't know, gangsters from the 1930s or 40s, or people who are in the mafia, or people who are serial killers. We don't have to appreciate people we read. We just want to hear their voices. We want to hear everybody's voices and judge for ourselves, and
to understand and maybe to prove ourselves what we think we would have done. And I don't like those many voices we have in German society who say today, "Oh, I wouldn't have fight at the front. I would have tried to kill Hitler, or I would have been a hero, a resistance fighter, or something like that. It's a total different situation if you are in a war or if you're talking about a war from a perspective of today. So history, you have always to see history in the context of the time. So
well, we will leave things there. It's a fascinating discussion, and it's given me lots to think about. And yes, yes, it's just a perspective that we need to hear. It's uncomfortable to some of these discussions. It raises questions that we don't want to confront. And as you say, that what would we have done if we were there? And the big experience of people who are thrust from a normal life and put into a terrible life. And as Dr. Phil Blood said earlier on, wherever you are at the bottom in an army, if you're a private soldier, you have very little control of what you're going on. But as an organization, I will say it again, folks, we're not saying that the Wehrmacht was not guilty of crimes. Of course they were guilty of crimes, but we're saying is that individuals' experiences are worth hearing nevertheless. So there we are. I'm going to end it there, folks. I'm off tomorrow, but Monday we're back with Mark Stilley talking about the Battle of Midway. But right now, thank you, Christian. Thank you for your views and questions, everybody. I will see you all on Monday. This is Paul Woodhouse for World War II TV saying enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Cheers. Bye.
Bye-bye.